When you think of martial arts cinema, names like Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, or Jet Li might immediately come to mind. But lurking in the shadows, shaping, directing, and even redefining the entire industry is one man often referred to as the Big Brother of Hong Kong cinema. He's not just a fighter, not just a director, and not just an actor. He's the powerhouse behind some of the most groundbreaking martial arts films ever made. A man whose influence has touched Hollywood, Asia, and audiences worldwide. His name, Sammo Hung. And trust me, the story of Sammo is far more fascinating than most people realize. Because behind his comedic charm, his round physique, and his legendary fight choreography lies a man who reshaped how martial arts is shown on screen. Get ready, because we're about to count down the top 10 facts about Sammo Hung. Let's start with one of the most surprising truths about him. Figure 10. The childhood rivalry that sparked a lifetime bond with Jackie Chan. Most people know Jackie Chan as the international superstar with his signature blend of stunts and slapstick comedy. But few realize that Jackie A.'s connection to Sammo Hung goes all the way back to their childhood. In fact, their relationship started not with hugs, but with competition. Both Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan were enrolled in the China Drama Academy, a Peking opera school run by the strict master Yuen. Think of it as a mix between a military boot camp and a Broadway training school. Students lived together, trained day and night, and endured grueling physical and artistic lessons. Singing, acrobatics, acting, martial arts, these weren't optional, they were survival. And in that crucible, a young Sammo Hung stood out as one of the oldest and most talented. Jackie Chan, younger and fiercely ambitious, often found himself clashing with Sammo for attention, roles, and recognition. Imagine two kids trying to outdo each other in flips, punches, and stage presence. That rivalry could have easily turned into resentment, but instead it formed the foundation of a brotherhood. Sammo, being older, earned the nickname Big Brother, and Jackie, along with other classmates like Yuen and Biao, looked up to him, even when they were competing fiercely. When Jackie later burst onto the scene with hits like Drunken Master, it was Sammo who quietly worked behind the camera, pushing Hong Kong cinema into new territory. And when Jackie's career began to falter in the early 80s, guess who stepped in? Sammo Hung. He directed Winners and Sinners, 1983, and gave Jackie not just screen time but a whole new cinematic style to showcase his talents. Their childhood rivalry morphed into a bond that lasted decades, carrying through collaborations like Project A and Dragons Forever. The fact is, without Sammo Hung's early guidance and eventual collaborations, Jackie Chan's career might not have taken the same legendary path. Their story is proof that even the fiercest rivalries can evolve into lifelong partnerships. Number 9. He broke the stereotype. The heavy-set martial arts star who could move like lightning. Close your eyes and picture a martial artist. Chances are you're imagining someone lean, muscular, with a body built like Bruce Lee. That was the template for martial arts heroes for decades. But Sammo Hung smashed that stereotype with his very presence. Unlike most of his contemporaries, Sammo was stocky, heavy-set, and had a round face that didn't fit the action star mold. In Hollywood, he would have been cast as the comedic sidekick or the bumbling extra. But Sammo didn't just accept the limitations people tried to impose on him. He shattered them with pure talent. Watch any of his fight scenes and you'll see the contradiction in motion. Despite weighing far more than Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan, Sammo could flip, roll, and spin with the agility of a gymnast. He brought a speed and fluidity that shocked audiences, because it wasn't what anyone expected from a man of his build. That became part of his charm. Audiences didn't just enjoy his fights, they marveled at how he seemed to defy physics. Take his role in Enter the Fat Dragon, 1978. On paper, it was meant to be a parody of Bruce Lee, poking fun at martial arts tropes. But when Sammo performed, the humor blended seamlessly with jaw-dropping choreography. Instead of being a joke, the movie became a showcase of his abilities. He proved that martial arts wasn't about how you looked. It was about what you could do. And this wasn't just about comedy or showmanship. Sammo used his unique presence to make fight choreography more realistic and relatable. He often emphasized how technique and timing could overcome brute strength or physical perfection. In many ways, he democratized martial arts cinema, showing that heroes didn't have to look like gods. They could look like ordinary people, yet still achieve extraordinary things. This impact was huge, especially in Asia, where cinema often mirrored societal ideals. Sammo Hung gave people a new kind of hero, one they could root for because he looked like them. And in doing so, he expanded the possibilities for martial arts storytelling. Even in Hollywood, where he later starred in the TV series Martial Law, his weight and shape weren't seen as disadvantages. They were part of his brand. So, while Bruce Lee inspired millions by showing the ultimate physical form, Sammo Hung inspired millions in another way, by proving that you didn't need the perfect body to be a martial arts legend. You just needed skill, creativity, and confidence. Sammo Hung's life and career are filled with stories like these, unexpected, inspiring, and at times revolutionary. From rivalries that turned into lifelong friendships to breaking the stereotypes of what a martial arts hero could look like, his journey has left an indelible mark on global cinema. And that's just the beginning. Figure 8. The mastermind behind Hong Kong's golden age of action cinema. When people talk about the golden age of Hong Kong action films in the late 70s and 80s, Jackie Chan often gets the spotlight. But behind the scenes, the man pulling many of the strings, the one designing breathtaking fight choreography, directing groundbreaking films, and even introducing comedy into kung fu, was Sammo Hung. Let's rewind to the late 70s. Martial arts films were popular, but many followed a predictable formula: solemn heroes, revenge plots, and serious tones. The choreography was powerful, but often stiff and repetitive. Sammo looked at that landscape and thought, "We can do better." So he reinvented the entire playbook. His 1978 film, Enter the Fat Dragon, not only made audiences laugh but also showcased incredible fighting skill. That was just the start. He directed and choreographed hits like The Prodigal Son, 1981, which is still considered one of the greatest kung fu films ever made. In that movie, Sammo fused authentic Wing Chun martial arts with character-driven storytelling, balancing humor with breathtakingly realistic combat. But his genius wasn't just about choreography. Sammo introduced cinematic pacing that felt fresh and exciting. He was one of the first to blend comedy seamlessly with martial arts, a style that Jackie Chan would later use to achieve international fame. In fact, Jackie's signature mix of slapstick and acrobatics owes a huge debt to Sammo's innovations. And let us not forget his work as the leader of the Seven Little Fortunes, a group of Peking Opera School alumni that included Jackie Chan and Yuen Biao. Under Sammo's leadership, they became a creative powerhouse. Together, they produced classics like Project A and Wheels on Meals, movies that pushed the limits of stunts and comedy. Sammo was also instrumental in creating the so-called Three Dragons era, films starring himself, Jackie Chan, and Yuen Biao. These collaborations are legendary, with fight sequences that are still studied by action directors around the world. Hollywood may have had its action heroes in the 80s, think Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone, but Hong Kong had something different. An entire movement led by Sammo Hung, blending artistry, humor, and raw physicality. Without him, the golden age of Hong Kong cinema wouldn't have looked the same. He wasn't just participating in it, he was directing the orchestra. Figure 7. His work with Bruce Lee changed his life forever. Before Jackie Chan, before his Hollywood fame, Sammo Hung had already crossed paths with another icon, Bruce Lee. And this encounter didn't just give Sammo a career boost, it changed the trajectory of his life. In 1973, Sammo was cast in Bruce Lee's final completed film, Enter the Dragon. At the time, Sammo wasn't a star. He was a skilled stuntman and fight choreographer, working hard behind the camera. But Bruce saw something in him. That's why, in the film's iconic opening sequence, Bruce Lee faces off against a burly opponent in a temple. That opponent? Sammo Hung. Think about the weight of that moment. Bruce Lee, the ultimate martial arts legend, squaring off against Sammo Hung, a man who at the time was relatively unknown to international audiences. The fight is short, but it's electric. Bruce showcases his legendary speed and precision, but Sammo's presence, size, and movements make the scene unforgettable. In many ways, Sammo provided the perfect contrast to highlight Bruce's brilliance, but what most people don't realize is how important that fight was for Sammo personally. It wasn't just a cameo, it was his entry ticket into international recognition. Suddenly, Western audiences saw his face. Filmmakers began to recognize his talent. And, more importantly, Sammo himself realized that martial arts cinema wasn't limited to Hong Kong. It had global potential. Bruce Lee's untimely death later that year left a massive void in the industry. Studios scrambled to find the next Bruce Lee, creating the phenomenon known as Bruce-ploitation. But while others tried to imitate Bruce, Sammo charted his own course. Instead of copying, he innovated. He infused comedy, expanded choreography, and gave martial arts cinema a new identity. That short fight with Bruce Lee also taught Sammo an invaluable lesson. Authenticity matters. Bruce was known for insisting that fight scenes look and feel real, not just staged. Sammo carried that philosophy into his own directing career, pushing stunt performers to their limits, creating sequences that felt raw and dangerous. Years later, when Sammo directed Enter the Fat Dragon, he wasn't mocking Bruce. He was paying tribute. He knew he could never replace Bruce Lee, but he could honor him by evolving the genre into something bigger. In interviews, Sammo has often spoken about that brief fight scene as one of the highlights of his career. Not because it made him famous instantly, but because it connected him directly to the man who changed martial arts cinema forever. That moment in the temple wasn't just a fight. It was a passing of the torch, even if neither man realized it at the time. By the time the 80s rolled around, Sammo Hung wasn't just a martial artist or a comedian. He was the architect of Hong Kong's action renaissance, a man who had worked with Bruce Lee, mentored Jackie Chan, and directed films that shaped an entire generation of cinema. And the best part? His journey was only just beginning. Year 6, he revolutionized martial arts on television with martial law. By the late 90s, Hong Kong action cinema had already taken the world by storm. Jackie Chan had crossed into Hollywood with movies like Rush Hour, Jet Li was making waves with Lethal Weapon 4, and Chow Yun-fat was charming audiences in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But while most martial arts stars were chasing roles in American films, Sammo Hung did something different. He took over American television. In 1998, CBS premiered Martial Law, a police procedural with a twist. Instead of another tough New York cop or smooth-talking detective, the star was none other than Sammo Hung. He played Sammo Law, a Chinese police officer who comes to Los Angeles to help the LAPD. Think about how groundbreaking this was. An American primetime TV show headlined by a middle-aged, heavyset Chinese actor speaking accented English. That alone was revolutionary. And it worked. Martial Law became a hit. Law. American audiences loved watching Sammo outsmart criminals with both his brains and his fists. His fight scenes were unlike anything on U.S. television at the time, fast, intricate, and loaded with humor. He showed that martial arts choreography didn't need to be toned down for TV. If anything, it could be the main attraction. The show even brought in guest stars like Jackie Chan in a cameo and other big names, turning martial law into a cultural bridge between East and West. While it only lasted 2 seasons, the impact was undeniable. It proved that martial arts stars could headline American TV, paving the way for shows like Into the Badlands and even influencing fight choreography in series such as Arrow and Daredevil. For Sammo, personally, martial law was a victory against every stereotype. Hollywood rarely gave leading roles to Asian actors, let alone ones who didn't fit the typical leading man mold. But Sammo, with his charisma and skill, won over audiences anyway. He didn't need to be the handsome hero. He was the relatable, funny, and incredibly talented one who made viewers tune in every week. It was another example of how Sammo broke barriers his entire career. Where others saw limitations, he saw opportunity. And when he stepped onto American screens, he didn't just play a cop. He showed the world that talent knows no borders. He survived serious health struggles and kept fighting behind the camera. Sammo Hung was always larger than life. But in real life, his size and relentless work ethic came with a cost. Unlike the invincible characters he played on screen, Sammo faced real battles with his health, and yet, true to form, he never let them stop him. Throughout his career, Sammo dealt with obesity-related health issues. His weight, while part of his image and comedic appeal, put enormous strain on his body. Years of punishing stunts, choreography, and directing didn't help either. By the early 2000s, he began experiencing serious problems, including heart disease. In 2009, Sammo underwent major heart surgery, a turning point that could have ended his career. For most people, open heart surgery is the end of an active lifestyle. But for Sammo, it was just another obstacle to overcome. Astonishingly, only a few months after his operation, he returned to the set, directing and even performing fight scenes again. This resilience shocked fans but didn't surprise those who knew him. Sammo had always been driven by an unstoppable work ethic. Remember, this was a man who had spent his childhood enduring brutal Peking opera training, who had pushed his body through decades of demanding choreography, and who had reinvented himself time and again in the face of industry shifts. If anyone was going to fight his way back from a health crisis, it was Sammo. But it wasn't just about returning to work. His recovery became a symbol for many fans. Here was a man in his late 50s, with a body battered by years of stunts and illness, proving that determination and passion could carry you through almost anything. His story resonated especially with older fans who saw him not just as a martial artist, but as an inspiration for perseverance. Even in his later years, Sammo continued to appear in films, direct projects, and mentor younger talent. He refused to retire quietly. Instead, he used his health struggles as fuel to keep creating, showing audiences that while the body may weaken, the spirit can remain indomitable. In interviews, he has often downplayed his struggles, making jokes about his weight or shrugging off the danger of his stunts. But behind the humor lies a deeper truth. Sammo Hung's greatest battles weren't always on screen. Sometimes they were fought in hospitals, operating rooms, and in the quiet moments of recovery. And each time, he came back swinging. By the time he starred in martial law and overcame heart surgery, Sammo Hung wasn't just a martial arts legend, he was a symbol of resilience, creativity, and sheer willpower. His story wasn't about being perfect. It was about never giving up, no matter the odds. And that's what made him one of the most remarkable figures in cinema history. 4. He created one of the greatest stunt teams in cinema history. If you've ever been blown away by the jaw-dropping stunts in a Hong Kong action movie, chances are Sammo Hung had something to do with it. Because he didn't just perform stunts, he built an entire system, training and leading one of the most respected stunt teams in the business. In the late 70s and early 80s, Hong Kong cinema was wild. Stunt performers threw themselves off rooftops, crashed through glass, and risked their lives daily for the perfect shot. But the system was chaotic, with little structure or safety. Sammo Hung stepped in and changed that. Drawing on his Peking opera training, his directing experience, and his natural leadership skills, he created the Hung Ga Ban, a stunt team that set new standards for professionalism and creativity. This wasn't just a group of daredevils. Under Sammo's guidance, they were artists. He drilled them in timing, rhythm, and choreography, teaching them how to make every punch, kick, and fall look both real and cinematic. They weren't just fighting, they were telling stories with their bodies. What made Sammo's team legendary was their willingness to push boundaries. They blended Eastern martial arts traditions with cinematic spectacle, creating sequences that felt fresh and explosive. For example, in movies like Eastern Condors, 1987, Sammo choreographed military-style combat with stunts so dangerous that even Hollywood took notice. And let us be clear, Sammo didn't just sit in a Director ES chair while his team took the risks. He led from the front, often performing the most dangerous stunts himself. This earned him the respect of everyone he worked with. He was Big Brother, not just in nickname, but in practice. He looked after his team, fought alongside them, and shared both the glory and the bruises. Over time, many of Sammo's protégés became stars in their own right, carrying his lessons into new films and even Hollywood productions. His influence spread far beyond his own movies. It shaped the entire way martial arts choreography was approached worldwide. Think about modern action films, whether it's The Matrix, John Wick, or the Fast and Furious franchise. The idea that fights should be fluid, creative, and story-driven traces back to Hong Kong stunt teams like Sammo's. His Hunga Ban wasn't just a group of performers. It was a school, a movement, and in many ways the backbone of an entire cinematic revolution. Number 3. He blended martial arts with comedy in a way no one had before. One of the biggest reasons martial arts movies became global phenomena wasn't just because of the fights, it was because they made audiences feel. And no one did that better than Sammo Hung when he fused high-octane action with laugh-out-loud comedy. Before Sammo, martial arts films were often serious, almost operatic in their drama. The heroes were stoic, the villains ruthless, and the tone heavy. Sammo saw an opportunity. What if martial arts could be funny without losing its intensity? That idea changed everything. Movies like Winners and Sinners, 1983, and My Lucky Stars, 1985, showcased this new formula. Sammo directed and starred in these films, surrounding himself with Jackie Chan, Yuen Biao, and a cast of quirky characters. The comedy came from slapstick gags, misunderstandings, and the lovable flaws of the heroes. But when the fight started, the tone shifted seamlessly into breathtaking choreography. This blend worked because Sammo understood timing. Comedy and martial arts both rely on rhythm, whether it's the beat of a punch or the pause before a punchline. Sammo used his Peking opera training to master both, creating films where audiences laughed 1 minute and gasped the next. His comedic style also humanized martial arts heroes. Instead of perfect warriors, they were everyday guys who tripped, panicked, and made mistakes. That made the characters relatable, and it opened the genre to wider audiences, including families and international viewers who might not have connected with more serious kung fu dramas. And let's not forget his parody skills. With Enter the Fat Dragon, Sammo poked fun at Bruce Lee's mystique while still showing incredible martial arts ability. The film wasn't just a spoof. It was a love letter, proving you could laugh and be amazed at the same time. This formula influenced Jackie Chan's entire career. Jackie himself has admitted that Sammo paved the way for action comedies like Police Story and Rush Hour. Hollywood eventually embraced this approach too, with films like Shanghai Noon and Kung Fu Panda carrying echoes of Sammo's innovations. In short, Sammo Hung didn't just make martial arts movies entertaining, he made them fun. He turned fight scenes into playgrounds where audiences could laugh, cheer, and still feel the intensity of every punch. That blend of humor and action became one of his greatest legacies, one that still shapes martial arts cinema today. By building one of the greatest stunt teams in history and blending martial arts with comedy like no one else, Sammo Hung proved he wasn't just a star. He was a visionary. He gave audiences heroes they could relate to, fights that felt alive, and laughs that echoed long after the credits rolled. His genius was in showing that martial arts cinema didn't have to be one thing. It could be everything. 2. He earned the title Big Brother of Hong Kong cinema. When people in the industry call Sammo Hung Big Brother, it isn't just a nickname, it's a badge of honor. In the tight-knit world of Hong Kong action cinema, Sammo truly embodied that role, not just for Jackie Chan and Yuen Biao, but for an entire generation of actors, stuntmen, and filmmakers. From his early days at the China Drama Academy, Sammo naturally stepped into leadership. He was older than many of his peers, bigger in size and fearless in both performance and personality. By the time they entered the film industry, Jackie, Yuen Biao, and the others looked to him for guidance. He got them jobs, taught them techniques, and protected them in a cutthroat business. But Sammo's influence went far beyond his inner circle. He was known for spotting talent and giving newcomers a chance. Many actors and stunt performers who went on to big careers started because Sammo believed in them. He wasn't threatened by competition. He nurtured it. He wanted the entire industry to grow, not just his own career. On set, he was notorious for pushing his team to the limit. He demanded perfection, and his fight choreography often meant performers endured bruises, cuts, and exhausting repetitions. But people respected him because he worked just as hard, if not harder, than everyone else. He didn't just bark orders, he bled with them. Sammo also bridged divides in the industry. When egos clashed, he often stepped in to keep peace. His loyalty was legendary, and his ability to balance friendship with professionalism made him a central figure in Hong Kong cinema. Even Jackie Chan, despite his global fame, continued to defer to Sammo as Da Ge, Big Brother. The respect wasn't confined to Asia. In Hollywood, directors and stunt coordinators recognized his brilliance, often consulting him or drawing inspiration from his methods. The reason was simple. Sammo combined artistry with leadership. He wasn't just a star, he was the cornerstone of an entire movement. Being Big Brother wasn't about being the loudest or the most famous. It was about being the one everyone trusted, followed, and admired. And that's exactly who Sammo Hung became. Number 1. His legacy redefined martial arts cinema forever. Here's the ultimate fact. Sammo Hung's legacy isn't just about his movies, his stunts, or his roles. It's about how he changed the rules of martial arts cinema for everyone who came after him. Before Sammo, martial arts films were often rigid, focusing on tradition and formula. He blew that open. He introduced comedy, variety, and new choreography. He showed that martial arts could be for everyone. Big, small, old, young, male, female. He wasn't afraid to parody icons, to challenge expectations, and to experiment with storytelling. Sammo expanded the language of martial arts cinema. He gave us heroes who weren't flawless, villains who were complex, and fight scenes that felt like living theater. He blended East and West, tradition and modernity, humor and danger. His fingerprints are everywhere. In Jackie Chan's acrobatic comedies, in Jet Li's fluid choreography, and in Donnie Yen's gritty realism. Even in Hollywood, where action films once relied on simple punches and explosions, Sammo's influence reshaped the landscape. Movies like The Matrix and Kill Bill owe their style to the innovation Sammo helped pioneer in Hong Kong. Without him, stunt teams wouldn't have become the highly respected creative forces they are today. And beyond the screen, Sammo's resilience became part of his legacy. He battled health problems, survived open-heart surgery, and still returned to inspire fans. He proved that legends aren't defined by perfection, but by persistence. Think about it. Bruce Lee gave martial arts cinema its first explosion. Jackie Chan gave it global comedy appeal. But Sammo Hung gave it range. He made it flexible, versatile, and capable of evolving. That's why his name belongs right alongside the greatest martial artists in history. When future generations look back at the golden age of Hong Kong cinema, they won't just see Bruce or Jackie. They'll see Sammo, the big brother, the innovator, the man who defied every expectation and left behind a legacy that continues to shape cinema today. Sammo Hung's journey is one of the most fascinating in film history. From a childhood rivalry with Jackie Chan to standing toe-to-toe with Bruce Lee, from creating legendary stunt teams to breaking barriers in Hollywood, he's proven again and again that greatness isn't about fitting the mold. It's about smashing it. He showed the world that martial arts cinema could be funny, emotional, dangerous, and beautiful all at once. He inspired countless performers, mentored generations, and gave audiences heroes who looked like real people but fought like legends. Sammo Hung isn't just a martial arts star. He's a visionary, a survivor, and truly the big brother of the industry. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends who love martial arts movies. Subscribe so you won't miss our next countdown on incredible stories from cinema and history. And if you want to support the channel even more, drop a comment below telling us your favorite Sammo Hung movie or fight scene. We love to hear from you. Because legends like Sammo Hung don't just belong to the screen. They belong to all of us who still get goosebumps every time the fight begins.